So like I mentioned before, with the key, I was able to replace the front struts to make it pop open. I replaced the spring as well, so it was easier to close, but it still is pretty hard. That first pull is pretty tough up there, and then it still continues to stay strong here. And that's pretty hard for some people to do. And so I wasn't happy with this, and that's one of the reasons I contacted Hansshow on this. It works, and if you go to the gym a lot, this won't be bad for you. But we're going to change that today. Alright, so I just finished the edit of the video. It's a long video because it's an installation video, so be prepared if you're going to do this, you can watch to the end. And use this video as an installation guide. I noticed I complained a little bit about the instructions in the video because they weren't very good. The pictures were very blurry and hard to understand. So I reached out to my guy from Hansshow. He's really great, really easy to get a hold of. He always answers my questions, and I told him the pictures were very blurry and it was hard to understand the directions. There's a lot lost in translation, I think. Better pictures would make it for a better installation. So they've already remedied that situation, and there's a link down below for the instructions, and they're also online when you purchase. All the kits, they have the instructions online. You can easily get them and download them. They don't include them in the boxes because it's easy just enough to download them. That was already fixed by the time I was already done with the project, but looking back, it wasn't as difficult now that I did it. And after watching my video, you should be able to have a better idea of how to do it. I absolutely love this. I've had it on for quite a few days now. It's taken me a little bit to edit the video because it is a long video. My wife loves it. I love it. Plus, another thing they have fixed is there's a lot more places that can install it for you. There's a whole list I'll put here or here, one of those places, or both. I don't know. So it's not just in California. All over the world, there's going to be installers. And if they're not in your area, basically any stereo shop can install this for you. Anybody that works on cars like that will be able to install this. So if you don't want to do it yourself, there's plenty of people around that can do it. I think this is going to be very fitting for a lot of people. It's not super expensive, but it's not super cheap either. It's $500 retail, but with my code, you get 10% off. Use my link down below, you get 10%, so it's $450. Again, not expensive, but not super cheap either. But I think it's well worth it, especially for the Frunk, for the Model X. Everything else is powered on the thing. Why not the Frunk? If you have any questions, you can email me. My email is always down below in the description. And enjoy the rest of the video. It is long. Like I said, it's long. Watch some of it. You can go back to it. Save the video for when you order yours and get it in. You can refer back to this video as an installation guide. And then you can still ask me questions then too. Continue watching. If not, I'll see you on the next one. So we're in the car, and with the frunk closed right now, we can open it from the inside. Motorizes open, which is really cool. But now it still shows that it's open on the screen. And now we're going to hit the trunk button. So it motorizes closed from the button or from the screen itself. Also with the key, like I've been showing you. Now we're going to take it for a test drive, and I'm going to hit the button while we're driving and see if we can open it. I'm going to also use the app, see if it can pop open while we're driving, because that's a big safety thing. I'm going to take the key while we're driving. We're going to start off in a slow pace first. Just like with the trunk, as we're driving, it's going to beep to let us know, because I hit the button twice and it's going to beep. Same thing with the side doors. It's not going to open while we're driving. Let's see if it beeps for the frunk. Let's go a little slow. Let's say maybe let's drive about 10 miles an hour. Nothing happens. It doesn't beep. It might have beeped with the horn. I took off the speaker. Let's try it again. Nothing happens. Let's go a little slower. Let's come to a complete stop, but in drive, it can open. So once you come to a complete stop in drive, it will open, just like the trunk in the Model 3, but you can easily close it from here. Very cool. So can you drive a little bit with it closing? So the frunk is opening. We can drive with it like this. And we could also ignore it, but if we're driving, can we close it? We cannot close it while we're driving. We come to a complete stop. It's starting to close, and then we can drive. But it's not going to close all the way. It just stopped. So we come to a complete stop, open it up, then we close it. Now it's fully latched. Awesome. Now let's try it with the app. So actually the frunk and the trunk are grayed out, so you can't even touch them because the car is in drive and the car is moving. Let's see if they change if we come to a complete stop. We've come to a complete stop and we can't actually do that. So the phone is useless when the car is in drive. We put it in park and then they show up. We put it in drive, we start to go, and then they gray out. So you can't even do anything with it. So very awesome. All right, so this is what you get in the box with the Model X. There are directions. You can print them out online. They're right on their website, and I'll have a link in the video to what I've printed out as well. So in the box you get the buzzer inline fuse. That's for the power, and of course the new spring. Here is the control box where the motors connect, the power connects, and the soft close latch and everything. We won't be using the front CAN wires. Set that aside. You also get a bunch of zip ties and some foam 3M tape so you can attach this to somewhere secure. And this is the new latch. This is what's going to motorize, and then this is the safety pull switch just in case someone needs to get into your trunk or the frunk in an emergency, and we're going to hide this. And of course, new wires, a lot like the back, the two struts. And we're going to start with these. We're going to replace these struts. We're going to take out the really strong, really powerful struts that I was able to put in to automatically open the trunk, but it really made it hard to close. And that's one of the reasons I was looking for this. It was really hard for my wife to close. She was able to do it, but it made it where she didn't want to use the frunk. So this is going to make it where the frunk is usable and easy to use. A lot of women don't like to reach all the way up, get your hands dirty on the trunk or on the front, especially in the wintertime. You don't want to grab the front of the trunk and close it because then your hands get all nasty. So this is going to make that go away. What we're going to start with is removing all this plastic material and remove the frunk itself. Once we do that, we have access to the struts. We can take these off. You have to take this off to get to this one, and then this one will come off. And then there's probably, I don't know, there's probably like 25 bolts that you remove the frunk with. First you remove the liner, and then you take everything off. And it seems really complicated, but it's really not. I'm gonna show you how to do it. If you're considering putting this in yourself, this is no problem. It's a 10mm socket. Make sure you get them all out and put them in a safe space. I'm going to put them into the carpet of the frunk before I remove this. And then we just lift up. Make sure you don't damage these wires at all. I like to tuck them through, be ripped out. You just lift up on this straight out. And here's the frunk, well, minus the frunk. Next step is to remove this board here because we have to get to the trunk button. We have to remove the trunk button. There's clips right down here. If you take a flathead screwdriver, that'll leave this plastic piece in place. And it looks like there's two screws here holding your T in place, and that is going to be a Torx 25. And all right, there's two more clips here. Screwdriver pops those off. One on this side as well. You can use pry tools for that if you want to. And then this comes right off. And you get to see some cool stuff that you might have caught. Look at that thing. I think Karen ran into a pterodactyl. And what we're doing all this for is to get that trunk button out. I didn't do this on camera, but this covers this area. You kind of pry this way and then pull back, and then this just removes. And if you're going to wrap your chrome, now would be a great time to do it. You have full access to everything here. This is a very hard part. Once all this is removed, you see that screw right there? Might be hard to see. Let me focus my finger. That screw there and that screw there houses this button, so that once you remove those, this button should come out. I don't know if what they used was a different vehicle. This Raven has something in the way. It looks like I can probably get to that one. This one looks a little difficult, but we have to remove those screws. This grommet there is for these lights, so we don't need to get that, but we need to get those two screws out. That's going to be hard. I'm going to try a bunch of short tools, little stubby screwdrivers, and see what works. Maybe something that bends in there, and I'll let you know what actually works. Alright, this part was a nightmare. Getting this button out is ridiculous. You gotta get, there's no screws from the inside, you have to get it from the outside here. And really what I had to do was pry this apart. I had to pry this apart with a cutoff of a 2x4 so I can get to this screw, because this is in the way. There's no access point. This button is put on before this gets bolted down, and really probably the right way to do it is to remove the bumper, but that's ridiculous for this. But this might just be a Raven Model X thing. The older ones might not have this issue, might have a different shroud here. This is where the air goes down into the car from the front grille, that opening there. This gets forced down in there. So what I've done, this button was in there, I've pushed the button out, and then I'm gonna screw this back on in place while I have this free and able to do it. Because then we just need to connect the wire to this, I hope. Yeah, we just need to connect the wire to this, and so I'll just have the wire hanging out of this. That's this wire here that hooks to this light. So you can see I have that wire coming out of there. These are the light wires, and what I ended up doing was removing all these screws, allowing this to move. You can see it can move now. I'm gonna bolt everything back down, and I just put tape here to cover the chrome so I didn't scratch anything. Hopefully that was the hardest part, and hopefully everything goes smoothly after this. We're gonna get to the struts now. Next thing is the strut itself. So I'm going to take this one off. I'm kind of supporting it with my shoulder just in case this isn't strong enough. But it is, thankfully. Set that down, grab this, pop the top one into place. Now this is shorter than what I had in what those were. Those were a little longer, so you probably won't have to do this, but I definitely have to support it because there's nothing hooked over there. But if you have a friend, this is when you ask them to help. That clips in, and then I can clip the other side. So the directions are kind of interesting here. It shows a blurry picture. That is not out of focus, that's actually a blurry picture, and that's what the directions say. Here's the actual piece. I'm assuming you mark this line, these two lines. This is the safety latch, and then this is the main latch, and this is the plug. I took this plug out, and that's what we're going to be plugging into. And it looks like this bracket will go here. I'm going to set you up in a time lapse so you can see what I'm doing, and hopefully you can figure out from my mistakes. Remove that spring. The factory spring is going to be a lot harder. You're going to have to use pliers, but I've replaced this so it closed easier. This piece looks like this gets folded in like that, so we can run this in there. And we put this through that slot here. This is what they meant by marking this. you want the height of this. This is how you're going to adjust how flush it is with the tail, with the headlights and everything. I'll put this stuff on last. Once we get this in place, I'm going to be able to fine tune adjust this closed, but I'm going to put it close to where I thought it was. Next piece is the spring. This is their spring, not the factory spring. You can see it's much tougher than the one I had in there. If we look at the directions, it wants this bracket 5 millimeters past this. Kind of what that looks like to me. And the way to adjust that is this cable. So you pull this back and that moves that forward. We're going to tighten this nut, loosen this one so everything slides back a little bit, puts tension on there. And then we have this 5 millimeters away. Alright, so that was kind of a pain in the butt too. You see all that stuff? That's like Loctite. And it didn't want to move, so I had to clamp down on that end to actually make it move, so we can get close to that 5 millimeters extended. This is what you want to extend out a little bit. Mine was off just a little bit. That could be due to this being a Raven Model X as well. So this is what it should look like. This is the cable running over to the piece that comes with the kit. You reconnect both lines. So we're not taking away anything, we're just adding to. It's one of the reasons why this works, and the safety mechanisms will still work. So we're not taking anything, we're not cutting anything away, we're just adding to it. So now we need to take this and house it down there. All right, this isn't very, very easy, but it's doable for most people. Places that install stereos and stuff like that could probably install this for you, no problem. It would just cost you a couple $100 probably. But right down here, where I mounted the cable that runs over to everything, there's another cable attached to that has to come out here. This is a safety pull strap. And there's two red ones down there. There's one back there. I just attached this cord to the one of them, and then there's a panel that goes over that. That is just in case, it's a safety thing. So right next to the red pull tabs is a motor cable that you need to undo. You'll see that black piece right there. You'll see the black connector that'll be facing towards the wheel. You kind of push on that and push down and you'll be able to release that. You need to have that disconnected, disconnect this, and then we take the big wiring harness and undo it. Everything's labeled, so front button, that's for this right here. Take the rest of this spaghetti, and one of them says motor, that's the buzzer. What's going to happen with this is this is going to intercept. I'm going to run this cable down and feed back around here. Everything is going to plug right into this thing right here, so everything is labeled and you really can't go wrong. So these only plug into, see, everything's color coded. These gray ones go to the gray ones. These are for the actual struts, and then we have power. We have a power cable that runs to the battery. And that's pretty much all there is to this. Before I do hook anything up, I'm going to go inside the car and power off the car. And you probably should do that before you do any electronical fiddling with the car. So at this point, you really want to focus on where you want to put the wires. Obviously, you have to hook up to the battery and then use one of those grounds over here and run the wire where you want to. Figure out where you want to put this box. You know, you could put this box inside the frunk if you wanted to. Put it right in the back panel of this if you'd like. There's not too much space for it. I mean, you could hook it up to the side of the battery metal, but I don't think that's a good spot. You could put it over here. There's not much room underneath the headlights, but right inside here is where they recommend. And that's where I'm going to put it, right next to the other motor controller and the factory motor controller for the front. So what I've done, I've been focusing on running the wire underneath here, hooking up the light switch here and running the wire through this grommet, which I'm going to put a slit in the grommet and at the bottom so that wire can fit through. Run everything down here, tidy up all the wires as much as possible using zip ties, electrical tape, and fit everything in that corner, and then run the power to it, turn the power back on in the car, and see what happens. See what happens. Hopefully it works. This is very stressful, mainly because the directions I don't think are very good. The pictures are very blurry. They should have gotten better pictures. I'm going to contact Hansshow and see if they can put better pictures explaining where things go. Probably now that I've done it, you know, I'll be able to do the next one a lot easier, but I'm going to tidy up the wires. You can decide if you want to do this yourself or hire someone to do it. I'm not for sale. But this wire here, this yellow wire, that motor wire that we had down there, we don't plug in and then plug out of that. This one we do crimp over the white wire. There's a gray wire and a white wire. I'm gonna clip this in there and then pull you guys in so you can see where it actually is. Way down there, so I'm never gonna get the camera down there. And all this does is you put this over the wire and then you crimp it down. Really easy to splice in. You're not cutting anything, you're not doing anything. If for any reason you wanna take this off, you just pull this back out, pull it off the wire, and everything is removable. So way down there is where the plug goes. It's in that white connector there. Well, trying to get your hand down in here, since I already have the controller in there, there's enough space underneath here. If you can pull the wire out, you can pull the wire out, pull the other wire with it, crimp it on there, and then you should have enough room to fish it back through there and plug it right in. And there it is, plugged in right there. Up front here I have the power hooked up to the red, because the red is power. I took the fuse out before I did this. Before you hook anything up, you want to take out the fuse, because this is an inline fuse. It connects here, wraps around, and everything is run. Well, I use that ground over here. Both of those are grounds. There's one over on this side if you decide to put everything on the other side. But I have everything run up into this cavity here. So this is a great example of why I wanted to not put everything in place, because I have to adjust this latch a little bit and also adjust how that comes down. I'll show you. It does work. This comes down kind of slow, so we're going to adjust that speed. I have the speaker sitting out here because I need to hear it for the speeds, but I'm going to disconnect this once I get everything working properly, because I don't like to hear that noise. It's annoying to me. So the gaps are okay. I want this to come down a little bit more, and there's a little bit of play in this that I want to get rid of. So I've already adjusted the speed going up. That's the fastest speed going up. I'm going to try to get that close to that coming down. And the way you do that, you trick the lock into thinking that it's closed. So now that it's closed, you hold this button down until it beeps. And then it's going to beep the number of what is on. So it's on 2, it's on the lowest setting. You got to go to 3 and all the way up to 6. And then you let go. So now it should be on the fastest setting. Actually, I think it's going to be closed. Oh, you can manually close. I didn't know you can manually close it. So we're going to open it. It's the fastest setting up. Pretty close. It didn't look like it went much faster, but you're going into the car, you're closing it up, you're walking away, or whatever you're doing, it's going to be closed. A lot of you may want to keep this button because I think it would also give you a warning if it didn't close properly. I think this is a great addition to the Model X. A lot of people have trouble with that frunk, and this is going to alleviate that problem and make it a lot easier to use. 2 clicks, it opens up by itself. 2 clicks, it closes by itself. This will tell you in the app if if the frunk is actually open, it's not tricking anything. This works. It's worked 100% of the time. The installation is a little finicky. If you are a person that can that is a DIYer, you can tackle this using my video, make the installation a little bit better for you. Or if you're in San Francisco or LA, there's some people out that way that can help you. Just contact Hansshow and they can point you in the right direction. But using my link down below, use my code and save yourself some money. Get the frunk out of here. I mean, that's cool. You gotta admit. That's pretty cool. So as always, stay awesome, stay positive, and keep the frunk popping. I'll see you on the next one.